Soon pass the floor to Floriana Cimarusti, who is the Secretary General of Safe Food Advocacy Europe, and she will tell you a bit more about this. But before I do, let me just quickly run through a few housekeeping points. So just a note on today's agenda. Each of our guests today will present a short presentation before moving to a Q&A session. And this is an interactive event, so we really encourage you to submit your questions to our panelists. And you can do so via the Q&A function, which you can find at the bottom of your screen. So not the comment function, please use the Q&A function. And I will take your questions. So we have a number of really distinguished panelists today. Please do keep these questions coming throughout the event. Now, without further ado, let me pass the floor to Floriana, who will kick off today's event. Floriana, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much to be all of you here. When we were organizing this conference, view that it's based on a project tackling adolescent obesity that we are doing with 5 countries, so Belgium, Italy, Poland, Germany, Greece. I imagine we were going to have mainly attendance from those countries. While I'm very happy and very glad to tell you that today we have so many people coming from different countries like Ireland, Austria, UK, Portugal, Argentina, Macedonia, Spain, Mexico, Hungary, Norway, Cyprus, Estonia, Slovenia, Finland. And this is amazing. Thank you so much for all of you to be here with us. And the dream we have is to have this Tackling Adolescent Obesity project, which now will be installed in those countries that could go in so many countries around Europe and outside Europe. And just to inform you about this project, and after we'll go more on detail, it's more than 2.5 years. We are working with nutritionists, professors from university, psychologists, psychiatric, obesity association to build this project, which is ready. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of work of 2.5 years working all together from 5 different countries, but it's ready, and we really hope you would like to help us in disseminating this project, because it's going really well for now, but it can grow and can be a much larger dissemination. And it's done in a way to talk with the language of teenagers. At least we try to use their language, and I really hope that we will have a way, even through this conference, to disseminate as much as possible this project. So I will ask Antoine, who is helping me with the presentation. First of all, as Natasha said, Floriana Cimarusti, I'm Secretary General of NGO called SAFE, who we are. I would like to show you just a short video, which I think can explain who is SAFE and what we do. Please, Antoine, thank you.
Are you sure that all EU food is safe? Let's think about, for example, an apple.
Yeah, of course. It's safe and healthy.
What about pesticides?
I'm sure the EU is taking care of them.
How about these candies?
I think they're fine. My kids love them.
Do you know what they are made of?
A lot of sugar, I guess, but I'm sure that all the ingredients meet the EU regulations.
Can you read the label of those packaged foodstuffs?
Of course, I can.
Are they clear to you?
E171, E621? Oh, that's a lot of E numbers. I don't know what they mean, but for sure they follow EU regulations, so they must be safe.
But are you sure that EU food law gives enough consideration to our health? Safe Food Advocacy Europe. SAFE. We strive for safer and healthier food for European consumers.
Yes, exactly. We try and we strive for safer food for European consumers. So we try really fighting to have a better legislation, trying to protect consumers' health. And to do that, we work together in Brussels to try to achieve our main goal. So what's SAFE mission? SAFE is an independent non-profit organization. As I said, we are based in Brussels, and our main priority are strengthening the EU consumer voice in the food sector and raising public awareness and training citizens, which is one of the things I really like to do. So next slide. Obesity, it's a growing issue. So statistic on adolescent obesity, 1 out of 4 adolescents in the EU, it's overweight or obese. It's a problem for the whole society. It's not that easy like you eat less and you do more gym. It's not enough. I mean, it's not so easy unless there were no obese people in the world. It was so simple to eat a bit less and to do a bit more gym, and the solution was there. Unfortunately, it's much more complicated obesity than this, and it's much more difficult to resolve a problem of obesity. And then what the other thing SAFE does is trying to create a new food environment that will permit a structural change, and that's what we hope to do with this project too. So next slide. At EU level, what's happening? But I think we have Stephanie. She will go much more on detail. But just to inform you, the Farm to Fork strategy actually it's going to establish and harmonize FOB nutritional labeling and to ensure consumer to healthy diet. So it's a strategy very important for SAFE that the European Commission is bringing on. And then there is EU Cancer Beating Plan and in the EU Cancer Beating Plan, which has been published by the Commission recently. There are several things very important for SAFE. There is a revision of EU school fruit, vegetable, and milk, reformulation of policy, reduce marketing on healthy products, which we think it's very important. There is a part of reformulation, reducing the amount of salt and sugar we have in product that for us it's really, really important. And then there is a guidance of code of practice on reducing unhealthy food marketing on children. Next slide. I don't think I have a lot of time, so I'll try to be fast on this. So yes, there are several things we need to be addressed. We believe that the FOB labeling, it can be a good idea. However, it's important to highlight positive and negative, able to show the presence of unhealthy products, toxic substances like additives, etc., should be mandatory and should improve European consumer health. It shouldn't be a way for commercial interest. The nutrient profiles, it's really key and it is really important to do it in the best way it's possible from the European Commission, and the code of best practice, which is for the industry, we believe should be mandatory. But now let's go ahead and let's go on our tackling adolescent obesity. So briefly, I will say that this project can be successful if we all work together. What I mean is that we created, it's finished, it's done. Now we need to disseminate as much as possible. And there where I will need the help of a lot of people, although we work very hard to have what we have today, but we need to develop it as much as possible. So tackling adolescent obesity aim to develop this common strategy to tackling adolescent obesity. We have partners in 5 different countries, as I said before. The school now, they're doing the project are the Duca School in Greece, and we have students from the school, the Liceo Scientifico Enrico Fermi, Italy, and we have today students from the school. We're very happy to have them. And Istituto Omnicomprensivo in Italy. So I would like to show you a video now. Sorry if I have a lot of video. I will ask Antoine to show next video about the...
Nearly
go ahead.
Nearly 1 in 4 adolescents are overweight or obese in Europe. Overweight and obese adolescents experience much more bullying than their normal weight peers. Tackling obesity is not as simple as telling people to eat less or exercise more, because being overweight and obese is not just a personal fault. It's the problem with a society full of aggressive marketing of unhealthy food, body shaming, and bullying towards overweight or obese people that isolates them in a circle of psychological pressure, eating disorders, and weight gain. This is why TAO project was created, to tackle adolescent obesity by promoting healthy eating, physical activities, good mental health, and a school environment that makes everyone feel safe regardless of their appearance. We will provide schools all over Europe with a student manual, a guide towards a healthier mind and body, an e-learning platform with useful tips and interactive content supporting the manual, and a teacher handbook, a guide to designing interesting nutrition classes. Thanks to the Erasmus Plus fund, they are totally free to access.
Another boring nutrition class?
Not at all.
With us,
TAO.
and Lainey, we are the most awesome characters that you'll ever meet.
I know a lot about nutrition.
I don't know that much, but I'm learning and trying to be better every day.
We will give you super cool tips to eat healthily, be more active, and to love and accept yourself.
Recipes and quizzes and so much fun!
So if you want to bring us to your school, don't hesitate to visit our website and contact us at
meettao.eu.
Here I am. Sorry, I didn't have any voice. So next slide. What's the basic, what TAO offer? Now let's go on the main instrument we create with TAO. There is the student training handbook on nutrition. So how nutrition influences our body and our mind, which is what we have done. It takes a lot of time. We have so many expert people who wrote it. And there are tips for healthy habits. Then there is e-platform, which has a part on health, nutrition and sport, interactive education material, video and maps, and debate forum to share a recipe and tips. And then there is the teacher training handbook, which is the one the teacher used to give courses to the students, which is give good practices and education interactive tools and lesson example with exercise for the students. Okay, next slide. So which are our expected results? Okay, let's maybe the slide after, Antoine, after this one. Yeah. So okay, after yeah, expected results, exactly. So economic, so it's what we all dream, minimize the social economic effect on the incidence of adolescent obesity. It's a kind of a dream. Then education, like educator better prepare on the issue of adolescent obesity, and the social part, more dialogue. And then next slide, which for me it's so important. Actually, why is TAO important? As I said before, is not just as simple as eating less and doing more gym and we resolve it. There is a psychological part of obesity, which is sometimes can be very difficult, above all for a teenager who can be victim of bullying, who can be offended, who can have the obesity stigma from a lot of his friends or students or people who is in class, etc. And there are a lot of people suffering in Europe because of this. And we hope with this project to find a safe zone where those students can find support, help from a teacher or for the psychological support we can offer with this project. And consider that on the website, there are names of psychologists or psychiatrists who can help people who are suffering from obesity who doesn't find a way to get out of it. And next slide, who we are. Happy to present all the partners of this amazing project. So SAFE, we are the coordinator. Then we have the European Child Obesity Group, which is in Brussels. La Società Società Scientifica di Nutrizione Vegetale, which is in Rome. Today we had Marina Bietorini, which is going to be substituted by her colleague, who is with us. Then we have Emotifood, which is based in Milano, and today we have Emanuele Mian, which is one of the speakers of the conference. Then we have Amici Obesi Onlus, which is an Italian organization, Adipositas in Germany, University Oreckowi in Poland, and then we have Liceo Scientifico Enrico Fermi and Duca School, where we have a lot of students today who will tell us what they think about the project. And I must say I'm very happy to have all of them with us today. It's the most important part for us. Are they happy about it? It's going well, our project. So thank you so much. Sorry if I talk too much today, but I'm Southern Italian and we always talk too much. So I will leave it to Natasha. Thank you.
Thank you, Floriana, for that comprehensive overview of today's event. And you're right, it's very exciting to have all the students with us today to speak about their experiences. But firstly, I will now turn to our first panelist of today's event. That's Green MEP Francisco Guerrero, who will now give a presentation followed by a short Q&A session. So Francisco, the floor is yours. Please do share your screen for your presentation.
Hello, good morning. Thanks to everyone for being here. My compliments to Safe and to Natasha. So I won't take long. Let me just share my screen. Here we go. So again, thank you for the invitation. I'm very glad to be here and talking to you, especially to the Q&A session that is the most interesting part of these presentations normally. So I'll jump to what was stated also by Floriana. So this is a complex problem. We are not talking about pointing the fingers to adolescents or people that are obese. Obviously, it's not their fault. So this is a complex problem. And it starts also with the food that we produce and the incentives that we have to produce them. We are now debating the common agricultural policy. So the European Commission, the Parliament, and the Council are debating the final document of one of the biggest program that we have in the European Union, which amounts more or less for 30% of the entire European budget. And this obviously it's a huge pressure to a lot of industries to continue to produce or change to another product. So we have the food producers, they obviously want to produce their type of foods. We have a huge lobby from the marketing industry that wants to sell these goods, some of them with no big nutritional value. So it's just marketing, when we can see that on advertising, online advertising, TV advertising, also on the street. So it's a huge pressure to build this consumption, artificial consumption of products that are not healthy and not good for our health. And so in the middle, because this is not a straight line, this is like a circular and complex web, we have the policy making. So obviously at EU level, which is very, very relevant because we are in a common market and goods flow freely between countries. And this also is related to international trade, but we are focusing here now on EU policy and national policy. They're also very relevant because the national legislators can go further with the legislation and have stricter rules, better approach to tackling these problems in schools, manuals, health guidelines. So again, it's a complex web of actors. But in the end, the consumers, the citizens, are affected by these policies and these investments. So I won't go further on this because now I think the next speaker will talk about the farm to fork more in detail. And so you can understand this is a strategy that was presented by the European Commission and now is being debated on the European Parliament. So normally you have this process. The European Commission presents a proposal, a regulation, and then, or a strategy, in this case is a strategy, and then the European Parliament takes a position on that document and makes its own position. All the political groups get together. We try to finalize the document with several amendments. We'll see some examples ahead. And then we have the position of the Parliament. And generally, as I told you, that is happening on the Common Agricultural Policy. The institutions come together, the European Commission, the Parliament, and the Council, and they try to gather the final documents with the three visions. So these are the negotiations between these three institutions. I think it's also very important to talk about these procedures because normally citizens don't understand how EU institutions function. So we are now regarding farm to fork making the Parliament position. So as you can see, there is 295 amendments, and several of them are ours from the Green Groups, obviously, because this is a very relevant document that states how we should produce food, how we should reduce the types of incentives to certain types of products that are not healthy. I will give you some examples. And obviously, the timeline, as Florinda said, has some big documents and regulations that are being revised that are important for the topic that we are here talking about. So you can see here several examples of what we are promoting. Just to give you an example, two main difference. One, it's the paragraphs that are stated as new. So it's in the document that is made from the rapporteur, that is the member of the European Parliament, and the group that proposes the first version of the document. If you don't have anything related to a theme, you can add a new theme. So or you can add an amendment. So you can see that the first two are two amendments that were introduced, so they are new. And you can see that they talk about the first one, better labeling of food products. Obviously, it's very relevant for us. And the second one, it states the negative impacts of processed foods. So for us, it's relevant to talk about these issues and to put them in the final document. And the third part, you can see that you have on the column in the left the proposal, in the initial proposal, and then we make an amendment to that proposal, making it more clear that we want fresh and sustainable and local food, plant-based, with low with less meat, obviously, and less products that are very high processed, and so on and so forth. So we can always improve the document, but in the end, all the amendments are voted, and if it's not, it doesn't have the necessary support, it will not pass. So that's also very relevant for us to be pressuring other parliamentarians and other groups, so we can make these amendments into the final document. And here we have some other amendments that were made that for us, these are just a few of many that we make, that we feel that are very relevant also. So to build a more sustainable and healthy diets in education. So an important work that is made by the TAO that was also here presented. So education is fundamental for citizens to be aware of the food choices they make, and obviously a percentage of organic foods served on the public canteens and in all the public procurements. We also want to reduce the taxes in fruit and vegetables, so they can be more accessible, because this is also about affordability and access to food, and make it more expensive, the processed foods, so the consumption is not as high as it is now. We are going to show you some examples of Portugal that we made this in the national legislation, and it worked very fine. So we now pass through the national level. So we are seeing some governments making some changes beyond what is required by EU legislation. So we can see here the UK moving forward with some measures to try to not make it so accessible, foods that are not healthy to consumers, namely snacks and beverage, so they are not easily picked up by customers, so it's difficult for them to buy. And in the next slide, I give you an example of Portugal that made the taxes, they made a small increase on the taxes for sugary drinks and for products that are that have a high percentage of sugar in their label. So this had a direct effect. So the consumption decreased, obviously, because the products were not as accessible as they were, because the price had increased, so consumption drove down. And then we thought that this is good, because in the meantime the state collects this money, and then it can direct it to education, to better labeling, to explain how these type of products are not good for even for the health system, because it pushes the health system to have more sick people. And so this was a very direct measure that is making a positive push here in Portugal. Besides, we also, and I think this is relevant, because also Farm to Fork, the strategy is talking about us reducing the consumption of animal products and processed foods, and so we have a more organic, natural, local-based nutrition, plant-based nutrition, and so Portugal was the pioneer in making a law that mandates that every public canteen has a vegan, healthy option. So we are not trying to condition anyone, but if you want it, you have a vegan option in the public canteens. So this is to prisons, hospitals, elderly places, schools, universities. So this is a national law that has a very good impact also on nutrition and the way children eat. The number of vegetarian and vegans are rising everywhere, thankfully, and even if they are not vegetarian or vegans, they are decreasing a lot the consumption of animal products, which is really good, and also processed food should take the same path. Our health government minister, made two guidelines that are very important. So it's official that the health minister has these guidelines for young kids that are in the school age to have a nutritional value vegetarian diet. So you have that plan that is official, and then you have for adults also the same manual, so that explains how you can have a healthy life with a vegan plant-based lifestyle. So this is very important also for the state to care for citizens and say, okay, you have here an option, but you have a manual, so you can do the proper choices correctly. And we are coming to an end because in the end, this is very, very relevant. We should continue to do these debates. We should continue to make awareness campaigns, inform citizens, inform adolescents, children, parents, teachers, the medical professionals, so we can all come together and, well, fight these numbers that are very, very high. So 1 in 4 of our adolescents are obese. That's a very, very high number, and we should decrease it. And this also reflects in other policies such as economic policy, health policies, and we should continue this campaign awareness and bring the public attention to what is happening and some inconsistencies, especially from several political groups that state one thing and then they do the opposite when we are trying to regulate some type of products. And this is very important also because you are the future politicians, I think so. And in that sense, we should not be able to go around saying some stuff and then when we are making the legislation doing the opposite. So it's very, very important for you to know what's happening and try to push politicians to do better, or if you think you can do better, you become a politician or you begin a new party. So that would be very interesting. And obviously reaching out to policymakers. So now it's very transparent. So we all have our emails, social networks. So try to engage with them, try to question, make yourself some podcasts, talk about the issues that bothers you. And if you are related to this issue of obesity, well, ask politicians to talk about it and go to your social webs and make some policy making. And obviously, this is a problem that affects us all. So in the end, we are all trying to strive for a better society that doesn't feel that we are here just living our lives. So we should have a healthy life, a prosperous life, a sustainable life. And we have so many problems nowadays with climate change, economic crisis, that we should really come together and talk about the role of citizenship and the role of politicians in tackling these issues. So thank you very much, and I'm looking forward for your questions.
Thank you very much, Francisco, for your presentation. And actually on the theme of, engaging with your politicians, as you were saying, we're going to kick off the Q&A session. We have a couple of questions for you from the students that are with us on the conference. And the first question they would like to know is about how challenges such as type 2 diabetes and obesity are ranked in relation to other issues the EU is currently facing. So is it prioritized enough, in your opinion? And also in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic, there's a concern from the students, are we slowing down on these kind of projects? Are they not getting the attention that they deserve? What's your take on that?
Well, I think obviously COVID brought the main focus to the health problem of fighting the pandemic and trying to make the social and economic model that is totally inefficient in our view, coping with this huge crisis. So unfortunately, this type of issues, the type 2 diabetes, the healthy nutrition food, the way we produce and distribute and consume food, it's not on the main agenda. It's like a secondary point, at least in my perspective. It's like a secondary issue. But if we see that at least from the latest scientific update, what brought the pandemic, this is just one of several that we had, it's related to the way that we produce food. So again, we should think that the way we produce food, the way we market it, the way citizens and yourselves have access to it should be a priority, because in the end, it's your health, it's our health, and it's the way that we treat the environment. And this is totally irresponsible from our perspective, what we are doing. So in the end, I think an holistic approach, because this is all integrated, should be always the main focus, and we shouldn't be secondarizing these topics, because they are very relevant and they are all connected.
And talking about a holistic approach, I mean, this is kind of what the Farm to Fork strategy, aims to achieve, this holistic approach. You touched briefly upon the strategy and the thousands of amendments that you have to deal with. I don't envy you on that. But when it comes to the nutritional side of things and tackling obesity, are you happy with the ambition of the strategy? Do you think it could have been more ambitious in this regard? And you also spoke a little bit about, kind of dealing with the pressure of the lobbying. How do you deal with that, and what effect do you think that's had on the conversation?
Well, at least for me, because this is my first mandate, and I'm 36 years old. I think I'm the youngest member on the Agriculture Committee. It's very frustrating, because I come from a generation that is very active, very impatient, that sees climate change and biodiversity destruction as the main cause and the main problem that we should face it. And then I'm in a committee that is very conservative, that is the Agriculture and Rural Development Committee, that is very, very conservative, and that doesn't really grasp the difficulties and the challenges that we have. And so for me, it's very frustrating to see that we have the scientific data, that we have the support of the civil society. The youth is gathering more and more around these issues. So it's wonderful to see so many young activists doing their thing, changing their behavior, their diets, pressuring their fathers, pressuring their politicians, entering the political system, making activism. And in the end, we have a farm to fork strategy that is a very, very interesting and very important tool. But in the end, it's mined by lobby and some interest of big companies. And I don't have anything about big companies, but the biggest companies that we have in this sector don't want to change the way they produce food, because they gain a lot of resources, economic resources, doing this. So a change is very difficult for them. And in that sense, there's a lot of restrictions. And to give you a perspective, just to finalize this point, the Greens only account for 10% of the European Parliament. So we alone cannot do anything. So we are always trying to gather support in other groups to try to pass our amendments, because they go in the flow of scientific knowledge, and because we do think that we should shift to a more plant-based, sustainable, ecological system, or else we would be endangering our species.
And talking on the topic of obstacles, we have a question here from Frederica Dolce from the audience. She would like to know what you believe are the main obstacles in the fight against high fat, salts and sugars in Europe.
I would say the economic paradigm that we should consume as much as we can. This is related to several industries that want to market the products as they are. And so this detachment of nutrition and health related to the food that we eat is used by the system that we have. That is a very consumistic model. And so as long as you have the resources to, in one side, lobby the political groups, and on the other side to market your products, it's very difficult for citizens to understand the better choices that they have. And so this is a huge problem, tackling this obesity crisis that we have nowadays.
Mm. And we have one last question for you about whether you know of any any legislation that specifically targets food in schools. So specifically targeting, I mean, you know, you spoke about the canteens and the importance of you know, offering a vegetarian option. Is there anything that's working specifically at the moment to target food in schools and kind of cooking and food related subjects in the high school curriculum, or banning vending machines from school grounds? Anything that you know of in that area?
Well, we have two levels. At European level, you have several regulations that make, for example, public procurements. That is the contracts that you make as an institution to buy food from companies, and they have some restrictions, and it should be improved in this couple of years. So it was one of those files that is being discussed in 2023, if I'm not mistaken. But then you have at national level, you have a lot of options, and you can go further. So as an example that I gave in Portugal, the vending machines in schools were forbidden. The taxes were raised to sugary foods, and this has a very direct effect on the way that consumers and yourselves have access to food. And also the vegetarian option, the vegan option in public canteens was a very important measure that was taken by the Portuguese government. And we also have to understand that we don't live in a federation, so Europe has several institutions, and in the end, the member states have their power to make further changes on the legislation, but they also have some restraints. But in the end, the EU, this is not a top-down way that we work in the European institutions, so you have several levels. But I would say that at the national level now, it's a great opportunity to tackle these issues, and they are more quick.
Excellent, thank you very much. Well, that brings us to the end of the Q&A session. There were a few more questions for you, but we've just run out of time. But thank you very much, Francisco. And I would now like to move to hear from the schools themselves about their experiences that were involved in the Tackling Obesity project, hear firsthand their experiences and their insights. So we will firstly hear from Liceo Scientifico Enrico Fermi. That was a terrible pronunciation, very sorry. I will firstly give the floor to the teachers from the school before then hearing from the students themselves for their take on the project. So the floor is yours. Please do share your screen.
Good morning, everybody. I'm trying to share the screen. Okay. So, good morning, everybody. My name is Costanza Chirico, and I'm responsible for international project at Liceo Fermi in Aversa, in Italy. Today, I'm speaking on behalf of my head teacher, who apologized not to be here with us. And on her behalf, I want to thank you all for such a great opportunity to our students to share their experience. This project has represented for us a great chance to deal with important topics, which is also part for us at school of Agenda 2030. No one can deny it has been hard to manage it in an unexpected pandemic time, but at the same time, it has been a stimulating way to go on creating expectations in our students. A challenge which has opened our minds and reduced students' stereotypes, and teachers too. A long project, a long research with an amazing final product and a brilliant students' involvement, at the same time, a new way to approach new didactic strategies for us, for teachers. My special thank you is to Ms. Floriana Cimarusti and Chloe, who have guided us, and to the European Union in general, which invests in education, making us one country, one heart, one mind. Now I'm passing the floor to Marco Varletta, my colleague, who has strongly helped me in such an adventure in the implementation of the project with the precious support of my colleague of science, Pietro Incontri, who is with us, and the fantastic students that have been involved and with a great enthusiasm have taken part in it. Thank you, everybody. Marco, the floor is yours.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm really glad to be here today. As my colleague Costanza said, I'm an English teacher at Liceo Fermi, so I wasn't personally involved in the implementation stage of the TAO project. I mainly took care in the previous stage of the formatting and translation of the intellectual outputs for the Italian version. However, today, in this brief presentation, I'm going to report back to you how our biology teacher, Pietro Incontri, implemented and integrated the TAO resources in his everyday lessons. Next slide. Okay. The final objective of the whole project was to provide information on the nutritional composition of food and its characteristics, to raise awareness of the best choices of food with regard to fats and other essential nutrients, both macronutrients, proteins, carbohydrates, and micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, and fibers. Also, to deepen students' knowledge on nutrients, studying and analyzing them in greater depth with the aim of raising students' awareness of a balanced diet without resorting to shortcuts. To reduce the discrimination that results from eating disorders and to promote integration in the school environment. So studying nutrition also as a way of promoting inclusion among students and therefore preventing bullying and other discriminatory behaviors. Next slide. Okay. For the implementation of this project, our biology teacher has selected 5 sections. Nutrients and their respective role in the body. So the group of students involved in this project had already studied nutrition as part of the IGCSE syllabus in biology. So they were already familiar in a way with the different food families and the associated nutrients. During the course of this project, they had the opportunity to further deepen their knowledge of nutrients and how food works on our body. In the following sections, health risks associated with an excessive consumption of saturated fat and trans fats, and health risks associated with an excessive consumption of sugars and additives, students learned to recognize where these fats and sugars can be found in food, and also the role they have in our body, with particular attention to the health risks associated with an overconsumption of these nutrients. And then the section overweight and obesity, the effect of discrimination on mental health. Here, students studied the relationship between prejudices and obesity and the negative consequences of discriminating against overweight or obese people. Finally, they had a closer look at the risks associated with diets and the different eating disorders. They learned how to recognize the first signs of eating disorders, such as bulimia and anorexia, and what actions to take when necessary. All the activities covered 30 hours of study distributed among class activities, online activities, and homework. Next slide. How we worked. Each activity was divided following a 4-step structure, a 4-step teaching unit, learning unit. In step 1, the teacher introduced the section to the students through online activities on the TAO website. In section 2, students studied the various topics using the handbook and the TAO online resources. This part was mainly carried out through self-study. Then in step 3, the biology teacher got students to have a class debate using the brainstorming method, which always proves to be very effective. So students shared and bounced off ideas each other and developed their critical thinking skills with regard to the issue of food. Finally, in step 4, the acquired knowledge was tested through online tools such as quizzes on the TAO website. At the end of the trial period, the students were asked to produce some intellectual outputs, which they are going to present today. Talking with the biology teacher who carried out the implementation of this pilot project, what seems to have been really effective and successful among students is that all the intellectual outputs, the handbook, the website, and also the teacher's manual, provide a very good balance between the scientific aspect of nutrition on one hand and the social, inclusive dimension of food with its implication on the other. In conclusion, I would like to point out that in Italy, I think nutrition is underestimated, is underrated. In fact, nutrition is not a curricular subject in most secondary schools. If I'm not mistaken, only secondary schools of hotel management and catering have nutrition in their curriculum. So as you understand, given the importance of food for our mental and physical well-being, we believe as teachers and educators that this subject should be included and integrated in all secondary schools curricula. In this regard, I hope that the dissemination of this project will serve a good function in spreading and promoting best practice in the Italian education system. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much. And we'll now hear from the students themselves. So please do share your screen so we can see your presentation.
Okay. So, good morning everyone. I'm Eugenio Garofalo from the Liceo Scientifico Enrico Fermi, Aversa, Italy. Our school, and I'm part of the Cambridge curriculum. Our school has a total of 2,500 students belonging to different curricula, which include the Cambridge International, where students over 5 years are prepared for 5 IGCSE exams, like geography, mathematics, physics, biology, and English as a second language. The Biomedico, where the focus is on biology and science, the 2.0, where subjects are taught using a different methodology with tablets and ebooks, and the traditional, where the standard issued program is used. This is not the first time that our school has participated in an Erasmus Plus program, but this time we've been asked to pioneer an international project which has been implemented in our everyday lesson. We are currently attending the 30th year of Lyceum, and since we took part into this Erasmus Plus project, we dedicated one of our weekly lessons with Mr. Incontri to studying the various topics of the Tackling Adolescent Obesity project, with particular attention to the basic units of food, like carbohydrates, proteins, and vitamins, and all the nutrients and how this can affect our body. On top of that, we had the opportunity to take a closer look at how food influences the process of puberty and growth, and also what are the risks that we may face due to an over or under consumption of it. We did so by dividing the lesson into 2 main parts, a first one where we read the chapters and received a further explanation from our teacher, and a second one which was dedicated to a question and answer session. On balance, this has surely been an inspiring experience which gave to over 100 students the opportunity to have a different point of view over such a sensitive topic as nutrition, and we are hoping that other students will be able to benefit from similar projects in the future too.
Over the course of our involvement with the project, we've had the amazing opportunity of learning more about the dynamics of the adolescent body and its relationship with food. As we approach the topic, the various processes and phenomena that make up the transitional stage of adolescence gradually became clear through the study of concepts such as puberty and sexual maturity. Moreover, we also learned how to fully satisfy our ever-changing dietary needs by avoiding inaccurate practices, such as skipping breakfast or reducing the intake of certain nutrients. However, the most involving part of the program was discovering the ways in which the specific nutrients affect our health, and that many of us have experienced firsthand. Firstly, we learned about fats, one of the body's primary sources of energy. We learned about the 2 main categories of fats, saturated and unsaturated, and the different roles and functions that they fulfill, such as cholesterol metabolism, heart activity, blood pressure, and blood clotting. We also discovered how to successfully implement healthy fats into our diets, that is, by avoiding exceeding 10% of our total energy intake. The understanding of these nutrient dynamics led to an insightful and aware approach to the adverse effects associated with an excessive intake of fats and the diseases caused by them, in particular type 2 diabetes and atherosclerosis. Another essential source of energy for our body that we studied are sugars, or more accurately carbohydrates, and the multiple forms in which they exist. We explored one of the most important categories of sugars, monosaccharides, and a fundamental type of monosaccharide, glucose, used to create energy, and regulated by a hormone called insulin. Lastly, we had a look at the dangers caused by free sugars, such as table sugars when consumed frequently and in large quantities, like the development of an insulin resistance leading to type 2 diabetes or unhealthy weight gain. Thanks to this project, we become far more aware of the importance of making healthy food choices, so we believe it could really contribute to raising teenagers' awareness of the link between diet and health.
Considering the impact of food on our life and wellness, especially in teenage years, the importance of a balanced diet should be highly regarded. Unfortunately, many misconceptions surround the topic, and what is worse, many teenagers don't even consider it worthy of attention. Some of these misconceptions lead us to look for shortcuts to lose weight without much effort. The first quick solution that pops into our mind is skipping a meal, usually breakfast, also because we're always in a hurry and don't have time for it anyway. Skipping breakfast is the most common yet one of the most dangerous shortcuts to losing weight, especially if you consider that we need to keep our blood glycemic index in equilibrium. Otherwise, brain functionality and other parameters could be severely damaged. Another aspect I was surprised to discover is how teenagers' superficiality, rebelliousness, and social pressure may lead to several eating disorders like obesity, bulimia, and anorexia, which are typical of this life stage. Obesity in particular is caused by the abuse of junk food from fast food restaurants rich in saturated fats and cholesterol, raising the chances of suffering from certain diseases later in life, as Chiro has already pointed out. Teenagers usually have a fast metabolism, which leads them to underestimate the importance of nutrients and a healthy diet. They kind of feel entitled to eat whatever and whenever they want. This misunderstanding about how our body works is dangerous and can bring serious health problems. This false belief is often matched with some unhealthy behaviors like extreme pickiness in food choices. Fortunately, not all teenagers are careless. Some are food conscious and eat healthy, accompanying the diet with regular physical exercise. To conclude, I believe this project could prove to be useful for many teenagers. In fact, studying each type of nutrient and its consequences on the organism could help realize the value of a balanced diet. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you very much. It's so interesting to hear the school's perspective on this program and also from the students themselves. I also am a chronic offender for skipping breakfast, so maybe I should reevaluate after what I've just heard from you. So we have a few questions here for both the teachers and the students. So our first question, I suppose, you've given a very comprehensive overview of what you've learned, but maybe what would you say to other students and schools that may have the opportunity to be involved in a project like this? Would you recommend it?
Well, we really enjoyed we really appreciated the involvement in this project. So we would really recommend including it into the curriculum, the school curriculum, because as I said in the last part, it could be really proved to be useful. And so we can say that we learned a lot and we are a lot more conscious now than we were before.
That's great. And what do you see were the main obstacles to overcome in this kind of project? What were the difficulties in this project that could be improved on?
Well, it definitely there's a more objective part that is the learning the most scientific part of the nutrients and their importance, because the impact on our body is a very complex organism, which really needs to be addressed in a certain way. So not only we need to learn how nutrients work, but how our body responds. So that is definitely challenging.
Yeah, absolutely, especially all the scientific, I mean, I heard all the scientific kind of phrases you were using as well, so it's definitely a challenge. I suppose we have one comment slash question from the audience, perhaps more for the teacher's perspective, about the role of different primary caretakers, such as, visiting nurses and different practitioners, also I suppose parents, and how can we involve them into these kind of programs and these discussions, and how important is that, do you think?
It's very important. We have always given importance to the involvement, parents' involvement, and we generally present our project to parents when there is the kickoff of them, and then we generally present it through our website, because we have the school website has a special section where we collect everything we prepare, so the results of our projects. On our website, for example, there's a section for TAO project and the final booklet, and everything, for example, what we are doing today will be presented on our Facebook page and our website page, so that parents can be involved, especially in such a special moment that we are in a lockdown again, and so we are all at home. But we can consider it, if we look at the other side of the medal, it has been a chance, this new way of communicating to be online, because we can keep in touch with many parents, teachers, and the territory too, thanks to technology.
And talking about connecting with kind of different people involved in this, I mean, obviously we have this event today where we're connecting between Brussels and with you on the ground. How, in your opinion, can we work to strengthen these ties between what's going on here in Brussels and the policies and strategies we've spoken about, and what's happening on the ground, in your opinion, Constanza?
I think that the fact that we can be connected using technology is a way to spread all over Europe, all over Italian schools to our project. And after, we generally have conferences at school after the main international mobilities. In the past, when we could take part personally in mobilities, and today, as we can take part thanks to virtual online sections, then we can present the result, the feedback, through local newspapers, through online conferences, and through parents' meetings, because we have a close contact. In our school, there's a close contact with parents. They have been informed about what we are going to do, and next week we are having a meeting with them to present the result of what we have done today. In fact, there is another group from my school. They are very young, and they are the pioneers of this group, because the decision has been to present the project to older students. They are in their third year, but also to the first year students, so that they can start, but it is not the conclusion of the project. We consider it the start of this one, to spread it all and to reproduce it in the next years.
It's really positive that you're looking to reproduce this. I think I would have benefited from this when I was a teenager, to learn more about this. We had one more question about how it's being disseminated to other classes in the high school, but I think that, Constanza, you have quite thoroughly answered that question. So I'd like to thank you all for your interventions here, and we'll now move to another presentation from the other school that was involved in this project, the Dukas School, and we'll hear again from the teachers and also the students. So if you would like to start your screen sharing, then the floor is yours.
So hi everyone, it's really a pleasure to take the floor after our keynote speakers in the Italian school. Before I introduce myself, our school, and introduce you to the pilot of the project, I would like to kindly remind those that maybe saw it earlier on the chat, and those that are not informed, that we have a QR code on the bottom of the page and the link. If they can vote, they will help the students of one of the projects finish the project today, and they will present it to you. So my name is Thomas Economou, and I'm the project manager and member of the Research and Innovation Department of Dukas School. With a Greek private school situated in the northern suburbs of Athens, Greece, Marousi, with a student body of around 1,700 students offering K-12 educational services plus kindergarten. As a project partner, our main role was to pilot the learning material in the classroom and localize the content in Greek. Early on, we decided that a mixed approach would suit us best, and that is why, on the one hand, we contacted the physical education department, which assigned Mrs. Liberi Maria, a physical education teacher and deputy head of the physical education department, to oversee and coordinate higher secondary school IB1 students' efforts on the development of their projects, focusing more on the values. And on the other hand, the science department of lower secondary school, which chose Mrs. Balabeku Martina, a science teacher, to supervise the students' projects, focusing more on the knowledge contained in the guide for teenagers. Both teams worked in the context of their physical education and science lessons respectively, remaining in alignment proposed by their curriculum, and both teachers and students will present their work now, just after I also salute our newspaper team, who is covering the event on behalf of our school. So thank you.
Hello, I'm Maria Liberi. I'm very happy to be a member of the TAO team. As a PE teacher in Tuka School, I would like to make a short presentation of our initiatives at Tuka School. The health of young people has never attracted so much attention. Unfortunately, most of this focusing on negative aspects like obesity. Indeed, childhood and adolescent obesity is a major public health issue. Besides obesity, mental health is also an issue. This becomes more urgent nowadays than the COVID pandemic has restricted most youth at home lockdown. Lockdown means social isolation, and this has a significant impact on how our students think and feel. Physical activity and health can play a vital role in enhancing both the biological and mental health of our students. Promoting positive lifestyle factors like proper nutrition, ample sleep, hydration, and regular exercise, students can strengthen their body and adapt to stress by building resilience. Also, these factors will finally contribute in fostering wellness. Schools can play a vital role in this environment, given that youth spend a lot of time at school. In addition, students seem to receive influence from school environment and shape their preferences in terms of physical activity and nutrition. This influence comes from peers, teachers, and staff. In Tuka School, we are targeting all people involved in the creation of a healthy environment for students. Students are in the center of our approach. In Tuka School, we already have the experience of running an Ensomati program, which has an holistic approach. What does Ensomati mean? It is a phrase usually translated as a healthy mind in a healthy body. Ensomati targets are to develop a health policy at school, improve the nutritional lifestyle habits of our students, and promote physical activity. Briefly, the Ensomati program required a series of changes in the school's curricula, teachers and administrative staff training, operation and other facilities, and after 7 years of implementation, Ensomati program has been proved to be successful in all areas of intervention and has inspired other activities within the school community. Based on the experience of Ensomati, we got involved in the TAO. As part of the TAO, we have also included additional sections. In particular, we have added sections to help students set SMART goals, see things from a different perspective, receive satisfaction by taking care of themselves. At this moment, I would like to welcome Melina, Electra, Gina, and Lida. They are IB students and they will present their thoughts and experiences. Thank you very much for your attention.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Marina Cilia, and before we start with our presentations, I would like personally to remind you to fill the questionnaire we have provided you with in the chat box and in the QR code you can see in the edge of every presentation slide, so we can share your results in the end of the presentation and compare them with the ones that you are going to see from the students we asked during this project. And with that, I give the floor to my fellow classmate, Electra.
So, fellow presenters and participants of the conference, good morning. My name is Electra, and for this part of the presentation, I will guide you through more general pathways concerning beauty standards. So, given what we talked about during our class, I would like to explain what has changed about beauty standards and what has not changed, how it affects younger generations, and what we learned through the discussion. So, as you will see, we posed several questions to our female classmates about how they define beauty and the current stereotypes or social constructs. So before I would analyzing the answers, I would like to underline the fact that the target group of the study was comprised of 15-year-old Greek girls. So the Greek factor plays a major role regarding the patterns that you will notice in the replies. So the first question was, how do you define beauty? So let's take some questions to read some of the answers. So next slide, please. So due to time constraints, I'm sorry, but time is over. So some of the answers refer to external traits that seem as aesthetically pleasing, and others to personal characteristic that makes a person appear distinct. Some, as you can see, mention the term confidence or shine that comes from within. So let's move on to the second question, which is about self-care and the motives behind it. Many times people strive to remain fit and healthy because they want to fit into a specific norm of a beauty standard and not for the sake of their own individual growth and well-being. So once again, we place societal acceptance higher than our own happiness. With this in mind, let's see how people responded. So next slide, please. This is one of my personal favorites because of the diverse points like bathing, loving yourself, shopping therapy, I mean, yes, capitalism, exercising, healthy eating habits, adopting skincare routines, sleeping. If sleeping means self-care, I am definitely taking care of myself. So what do you think so far? Do the results greatly differ from what you would have answered? Please let me see a virtual or I don't know, from a camera thumbs up if you would say similar things with those that our female classmates answered. So great. So now we'll be passing my presentative duties to my friend Gina.
Thank you so much, Electra. So hello from me as well. My name is Gina, and I'll talk to you a bit more about what we did in class. So as you can see, we asked our fellow classmates what was their opinion about the current beauty standards. So as you can see from the answers, most of them apply to the same concept, that women in particular are greatly pressured by today's beauty standards to look a certain way. And that is one of the major problems of beauty standards, that they exclude a wide range of people that might not have the same characteristic of what is defined as beautiful. And as you can see on the second slide as well, this is what causes many insecurities, both psychological and physical, because people strive to look a certain way that society believes is right. So because we give praise to being skinny or having the curves in the right places, that's what drives young girls in particular to compare themselves with models on Instagram or magazines, which is, of course, an unattainable image. And so as you can see on our next slide, we created a poll to see, and as you can see, the most common answers was first, so-and-so, and second, I don't know. That shows exactly the impact that beauty standards have on the younger generations, and specifically in young girls. And that shows exactly how beauty standards do not necessarily affect our perception of what is beautiful, but our perception of ourselves, and undermines our self-esteem and our personal beauty. So with that in mind, we created a project, and we put pictures of women that we believe are actually beautiful. And so with that in mind, we tried to pass some message that beauty standards need to become more open and maybe normalize, finally, different body types, ages, races, or even characteristics that might seem as flaws, such as acne or freckles. And so our main message is that we want to create a more inclusive beauty standards, and thus allow people to be able to love themselves since they are individually beautiful. So with that being said, I will be passing the floor to Melina for our next topic.
Thank you, Gina. So hello again. And I am going now to be talking about physical exercise. I know some of us don't like the hearing of that. I am one of those people. I know some people actually like it, which is quite surprising, I must say. But it is important to mention that physical activity is necessary for our good health. It improves our sleep, our endurance, and our mood. Our school generally has a policy for all its students to engage in physical exercise, even during the global COVID-19 pandemic. Through physical exercise, even during this pandemic, in PE classes online, we continue performing exercises such as yoga, body strengthening, dancing, and even meditation, which was actually the most popular between our fellow classmates, as it helped battle our stress, especially during self-isolation. And since we are on the topic of stress, studies have shown that it's actually very possible with lowering your stress levels, having a positive outlook in life, as well as physical exercise and relaxation techniques to reduce risk of health problems given the relation between stress and many medical conditions. So, how does one successfully exercise in order to remain healthy? It's actually pretty simple. You set goals, SMART goals, goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. However, in order to keep track of all that, one must have a schedule that takes into account not only your physical exercise, which should be based on the 4 rules of exercise, which are frequency, intensity, time, and type of exercise, but also necessities in our everyday lives, such as what we eat and how many hours a day we sleep. And with that, I'm going to pass my presentation duties to Lida.
Hello everyone, my name is Lida Leroux and I'm honored to participate in this conference. So moving on, based on previous studies, due to the lack of movement caused by quarantine, adults and adolescents should at least accumulate 150 minutes of moderate exercise and at least 75 minutes of vigorous to intense activity per week in order to remain healthy. So multiple Harvard studies in conjunction with results from the WHO have recommended the 60, 30, and 3 proposal, which consists of a simple routine of 60 minutes of aerobic exercise per day, with examples such as running or cycling, and an active break of every 30 minutes, along with muscles and core strengthening exercise around 3 times a week. But what was the students' response to this? We asked their fellow classmates about their favorite types of exercises. As you can hopefully see, running and dancing were the 2 dominant answers, with strengthening and core exercising following closely behind. When we asked them about their interest and relationship with exercise, the majority declared that they are interested in exercising, devoting around 1 to 2 hours daily to exercising, and doing even more so, especially in quarantine, which was quite impressive, I have to say. Lastly, we asked their opinions regarding the pros and cons of exercising. Satisfaction and the feeling of achievement afterwards was the most present and popular answers, and soreness and fatigue was followed on the other side of the spectrum. Our students' results and beliefs have seemed to adapt to the aforementioned proposals by the mentioned above institutes, and we are happy to see that people are focused on the physical and mental health, especially during periods of limited activity, such as quarantine. So now we will be moving on to another quite important topic because, excuse me, but no matter how much we exercise and even if we follow all the aforementioned programs and goals we have set, we need to incorporate at least an eating plan in order to remain sort of healthy. We will now pass into mindful eating, which has become a term that is currently embedded in our everyday language. Based on the practice of Zen Buddhism, it has become a method of encouraging people to gain awareness of their eating experiences. But how did students describe mindful eating? As you can hopefully see on your screens, students described it as a way to appreciate food or the effect that food has on someone's mental health and sensual awareness. Once again, it has little to do with calories, fat, or even protein. The purpose of mindful eating is not to lose weight, but to appreciate and become more conscious about your food intake. As you can see, next slide, thank you. As you can see in the photo on the right, a description of how to practice mindful eating is mentioned, which entails listening to your needs
and avoiding distractions while eating so as to fully appreciate your meal. On the picture on your left, you will notice certain foods and their uncanny difference to body parts. This showcases once again that mindful eating, in contrast to many short-term diets which are focused on results, strives for long-term self-improvement through eating habits. It asks the question, what can I do to improve myself through my eating habits? So now I will once again be passing my representative duties to Gina.
Thank you so much, Lida. So I'm going to talk to you a bit about what we did in class. So as you can see, we prepared our own breakfast, and that particularly helped our students because it is a very common phenomenon in Greece for students not to eat breakfast in the morning. So that's helped a lot because, as people say, breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and that is for the reason that breakfast gives you a lot of nutrients to continue the rest of the day. So in the next slide, as you can see, we focus more on raising awareness about mindful eating. And even though most of us would sometimes love to just binge watch movies in front of the TV and eating snacks, that is particularly one of the many factors that cause obesity, especially in younger generations. And thus we can understand that mindful eating is about paying attention to what you eat without judgment, and to be aware of the food that you put inside your body without necessarily having the perfect body weight. So as you can see from the next slide, we asked our students what helped them during that lesson. And basically, most of the answers say that mindful eating helped them with digestion and eating slowly, while at the same time they understood that mindful eating will end when you mindfully eat, you'll end up eating less food than you expected. So on the next slide, we pose a question, what is the difference between diet and mindful eating, which we believe is of vital importance. And basically, the majority of the answers stated the same thing, that one of the major factors of mindful eating is that it allows you to eat food from all different food groups without restricting you from eating foods that are not particularly as healthy, such as chocolate or chips. And that it particularly helped our students because it allowed them to refrain from any unhealthy habits and to have a more balanced eating schedule. So at this point, I would like to pass my representative duties to Lida again.
Hello, once again. So when the students were asked what they considered a healthy schedule to be, they insisted that you should focus on your body's needs and to not under-consume calories. They also mentioned that you need to accept the fact that if you have set a desired eating plan, you might not always follow that, and you need to come into, that you need to accept the fact that you might not always follow your desired eating plan, and in the instance that you do not, to not beat yourself over it. In contrast to outdated beliefs and predisposition that health equals to only greens, like sheep, which is not the case. When asked if they consider mindful eating to be important for a person's health, we had a variety of responses. Thank you. As you can see, hopefully, there were people who did not consider it as innovative as others, which is respectable, and saw it as a hippie version of diet plans. Others perceived it as a method which makes you more conscious about what you eat, and what you consume, without placing necessary restriction on what you can and cannot eat. So with mindful eating being in order, let's see the results that have been calculated from your responses. Electra?
Thank you, Linda. So dear all, it's me again, it's Electra. Thank you so much for paying attention, but we can't leave you just yet. For all those who have completed the Menti quiz that Melina mentioned in the beginning, we would like to present the results in order to briefly compare them with some of the previous answers. So once again, the first question was the definition of beauty. What does beauty means to you? So as you can see, we have mainly positive aspects of someone that come from within. It's about confidence, it's about simplicity, it's about harmony, intelligence, politeness, austerity, and it's authenticity, it's being unique. So the next question was about what do you think mindful eating or exercise can offer to you, physical exercise in this case. So it is once again about discipline and at the same time relaxation. It's about being physically healthy and fit, it's about well-being thus, and also, but it's kind of limited, about being social, about being active, about being a better person. So we can all see that although the audience of the meeting is extremely diverse, your answers don't immensely differ from those of 15-year-old Greek students. So the stereotypes remain and are universal for everyone. Thus, we must realize that this problem must be tackled by everyone from all corners of the world. But in the end, we should all learn how to love and take care of ourselves through exercise, mindful eating, because we are beautiful and worthy in every single way. So thank you very much for listening to us.
Thank you very much for this presentation. I have to say, very impressive presentation, very interesting to listen to. I thought it was very engaging. Both the presentations that we have had from the students, really, you've brought a lot to the table to hear about your experiences with this project. So let's now move to a short Q&A session. And
Natasha, can I ask you
yes,
a courtesy? Yeah, because the Italian students haven't presented the results. So if it is possible, there is Caterina, the youngest student, who's going to present the final product that they have, because they have worked so hard, if it is possible.
Absolutely, no problem. I think we were going to move to that after the Q&A session, Constanza. Would that be okay for you?
Yes, okay, thank you.
Okay, so we'll have a short Q&A first. Okay, so the questions...
We also have a few students from the lower secondary school. Would they also go? Do we have time?
For another presentation?
Yes, from the younger students.
Yeah, absolutely no problem. We'll take a few questions now, and then we'll move to the other presentations that remain. Is that okay for you guys?
Okay, thank you very much.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So the first question that we have a question from the audience, an anonymous question. They say it's wonderful to see this kind of combined focus of scientific mental health and a healthy lifestyle aspects. And I have to say I absolutely agree. But they were wondering if there was more practical aspects that had been brought to the project, such as budgeting and planning and that respect. Was that also included in the project?
Okay, so thank you very much for that question. So we basically focused more on the well-being, and we understand that everyone has different budgets, they have different opportunities basically, but you do not need to have a very high budget in order to achieve those things. These can happen, we focused on those especially because during quarantine we cannot leave our houses, so we work with what we have around us. So starting with physical exercises, you can find any physical exercise program that fits you, especially online for free courses. You can either meet with experts online for free in order to find a program that fits you, or you can simply follow the program by the WHO, which just basically suggests exercises that do not cost you anything, such as walking, cycling, or just walking around the room. Go for a walk outside with your dog if you have a pet. And as for mindful eating, the budget there is also very low, since we do not restrict anyone to follow a certain diet, which would include maybe foods that were quite expensive. It's more about making sure that what you eat is compatible with your body and that you stay healthy. Foods such as vegetables, fruits, all of them who are very, very economic and low price.
Great, that's a great answer. Thank you for answering that for me. You've given a really comprehensive answer to presentation to the kind of what you've learned. But how do you feel that participating in the project has changed your approach to diet and nutrition? Do you feel like it has actually changed your perspective on this?
Personally, I believe definitely it did change a lot of our perspectives. Starting with the beauty standards, which was the first thing we approached during the project. we had basically an insight on how many of teenage girls around us, people our age, do not feel beautiful, and it's quite sad actually. So having that in mind and having lessons where we empowered each other, we talked about how everybody is beautiful, and what society deems as imperfections, they're not really imperfections, they are things that make you unique. After we accepted that, which is the first step, accepting, then we moved on to things such as physical exercise and mindful eating. As we are unique, things, physical exercise and mindful eating for everyone is different, and it has to adapt to their uniqueness. So we found a way for all of us to discover what best fits us, and after that, I think we all are going to follow our personal best mindful eating, physical exercise, and acceptance schedule for the years to come.
And I asked this question before, I posed this question to the Italian students, but perhaps you have another answer. What would you say to students and schools that may have an opportunity to be involved in a project like this? Would you encourage them also to get involved?
Oh, definitely. We believe that this project, first of all, apart from helping us understand an issue such as teenage obesity better and understand why it's happening, how we can address it, and how we can basically contribute as external powers, basically, on how helping these people with their well-being as well, by empowering them, telling them they're beautiful. Apart from all that, we also come into contact with so many amazing people around the world, and as Electra mentioned in the end of the presentation, this is a global issue that needs to be addressed from all sides, from all parts of the world. So for that, we would definitely encourage everyone to participate.
I think it's really great to hear about this, empowering each other and talking about beauty standards. It's such a huge issue, and I think it's really fantastic that you had this opportunity to share this. So thank you very much. So we will now move. We now have some more presentations from the students, which is really great to hear more about from the students' perspective. Constanza, perhaps we will first turn to the second part of the presentation from the Italian school. Constanza?
Yes, thank you.
Would you like to start sharing the screen?
Yes, Caterina, please.
Thank you.
Sure. Joe, may you share? Yeah. Okay, so good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Caterina from the first year, and my group is made up of Carmen, Giulia, Nicola, Lucrezia, Gianna, Gaetano, Roberta, and Vincenzo. We're going to present our food project. I want to start with our motto, if you know it, you can eat it, from Lucrezia's idea. This is because we think it's essential to know the product before we are going to have it. What we did is that every Thursday, every week, every month, we have worked on our leader project with Mr. Incontri and Mrs. Chirico. It's really important to know food properties to make sure we eat right quantities for our organisms every day. Not everyone knows that, and maybe someone doesn't even care. It's essential. We're teenagers and our bodies are changing. We are mentally changing with them. We need awareness. We have talked about nutrients and their respective role in the body, nutrition requirement for an adolescent, and about the health risk associated with an excessive consumption of saturated fats and trans fats. This project made us reflect on how to have an enormous relationship with what we eat, illustrating the advantages and disadvantages of determining the substances we take every day, but above all, how healthy balance depends on everyone's psyche. Precisely because of the importance of the topic that this project deals with, it should be included in education of all pupils. It's really important to understand. It is important too to dispel the myths about food. Indeed, as Molière said, one should eat to live, not live to eat. Everyone should know the importance of eating well and the differences between various foods. Therefore, we propose to officially establish a day and a month, which is not only students, but also teachers or parents, are educated on the importance of a balanced diet. Ultimately, the future of food is what we make of it. Thank you for the attention and the great opportunity, and we hope you got to know something useful for you.
Thank you, Katerina, and absolutely, I agree with you. We should, why eat to live when you can live to eat? I'm in that category for sure. So we'll now move to the second presentation from the Dukas School. So you can start sharing your screen. The floor is yours.
Hello everyone, I'm really happy for being here with my students to show you our work. I'm Martina Balabeku and I'm a science teacher at Duca School. I'm going to present how I implemented some of the program educational material in a biology class in the first grade of junior high school. As you can see in the table, some of the learning objectives of the national curriculum in biology deal with human nutrition. Nevertheless, nutrition is approached as a static situation where our body absorbs the nutrients it needs in order to be healthy. There is no connection with the social or emotional aspects of eating. Obesity, among circulatory diseases and others, is seen as a result of an unhealthy diet. Due to COVID-19 pandemic, most of these objectives were discussed in a remote teaching situation. The access in the online educational material that is accompanied with online quizzes was a great means to engage students in interactive games. It was also a nice opportunity to interact with something beyond the national borders, despite the restrictions. As you can see, our project began when the students' handbook and website of the project was given to students as an extracurricular activity during the winter's holiday. A detailed discussion was held during the biology course, and students were organized in groups. The groups chose their topic according to their interests, they presented their works and discussed with their classmates. I think that during the project, students acquired organizational skills, they collaborated, they conducted small inquiries, and they developed their presentation skills. Last but not least, they approached nutrition from a different aspect, using their knowledge to a broader context. And now it's the students' turn. With great pleasure, I want to call for Michalis Dallas to talk about the project he participated in.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Balabek, for the introduction. My name is Michael Dallas, and let's begin the presentation. Nutrition, teenagers and athletes. Presentation preparation, performance organization. The presentation was created by Vasilis Dalianakis, Michael Dallas, Panagiotou Dayaniti, Thaya Kalaidji, and Katerina Kopana. Motivation. The Erasmus report that has been brought to our attention by our professor, Mrs. Balabek. The Erasmus report was on nutrition, entitled TAO Tackling Adolescent Obesity Towards Healthier Body and Mind, a guide for teenagers. As you understand, a detailed discussion was held during the lesson. We, as a team, got an interest to pursue a project on teenager nutrition. Given our great interest in sports, a special analysis on athletes' nutrition was carried out. Presentation organization. The presentation was organized in two main sections as follows: teenagers nutrition, overview, daily needs, eating disorders, and in athletes nutrition we had highlights, benefits and rewards, principle and daily needs. Also, we had the case study on nutrition of Public Academy members because we thought that it will be the best example so that our classmates will understand it better. And of course, we had the conclusion. Sources inquiry. The team was split into subgroups. The first subgroup targeted to collect the information on teenager nutrition. The second one dealt with athletes nutrition. Desktop research and relevant inquiries were applied. For example, literature research through the internet, questions to nutritionists, and inquiries on sport academies as per their nutrition policy. Performance organization. As soon as the presentation was prepared by the group of 5 young people, a dry run was carried out the day before. Slide distribution were done equally among the members. Now, at the performance level, targeting to be familiarized with the topic, all members agreed to distribute the slides almost randomly. Conclusions. The nutrition offers the required energy for the personal growth and the daily activities. The nutrition in sports is the path for high performance and duration. The daily needs of an athlete requires mainly carbohydrates along with proteins. The balanced nutrition for athletes is the catalyst for the realization of their athletic vision. It is a life value. Now, I would like to give the floor to my colleague Georgia Vulgarelli to present the project of her group.
Eating Disorders Project Completion Process. Vulgarelli Georgia and Ευθυμίου Maria Irini. Topic. The process of deciding the topic was easier than the other stages. We chose the topic that interested the whole group the most, and then we got advice from our biology teacher. Units. We divided the units based on TAO tackling adolescent obesity towards healthier body and mind, a guide for teenagers that was given to us during the winter break, and depending on the eating disorder that each one participant was interested about. Information. We searched for information on the internet and in the book that I mentioned before, and from there we got the ones we considered most important. We copied them, and for reasons of copyright, we wrote the links of these sites to be sure we are safe. Organization and decoration. We organized our presentation, dividing it into 3 parts, and each one of us took one. Then we finished our presentation. Results. According to the above research, it has been shown that eating disorders are many, they are important, they mainly affect teenagers and specifically girls, and also affect our psychology as they are sometimes caused by it. However, due to advanced technology, they are easily treated as long as the patient himself or herself is willing. So let's now try to make a world with any child or adult with any eating disorder that may not let him live unforgettable experiences and adventures. I will now hand you over to Maya Tsatsaragu to present the project of her group.
Collaboration to create the presentation. Maya Tsatsaragu, Stratos Sainis, and Stavros Kontsas. Topic and organization. At first, we decided to choose the specific topic because we preferred to work on a topic that was well known to us. We had done similar projects against the past. Organization. The organization of our presentation was divided in 7 different slides. The first 3 slides mention about 3 intolerances, gluten, lactose, and fructose. Then our project also mentions about the tips that everyone with these intolerances should use to their benefit. Our sources. We use these sources to enrich our slides and our project in general. Conclusion. There are many things that we observe from this project. Firstly, we learn about some different types of intolerances. These intolerances can make a human's life very difficult. That's why we decided to give you some tips about each one, such as we have a smoothie without gluten, an easy breakfast that you can make at your home without lactose, and a delicious lemon recipe without fructose. So now I want to invite Katya Rizaki to speak about the project of her group.
Hello, my name is Katya Rizaki, and I'm going to present you how we made the presentation about mindful eating. Made by me, Margarita Bakopoulou, Victoria Vlachopoulou, Digoni Dilana, and Georgina Liberti. How we started. We started by discussing and putting forward all of our ideas. We talked for a long time, and everyone had a different point of view. Then, after a lot of research and studies, we decided to deal with the issue of why we eat. The mindful eating technique helped us deal with this problem. Information. We recorded our ideas and looked for a lot of information on this topic on the internet, but also in the book TAO, Talking Adolescent Obesity. It is an issue that concerns us all, and we must all fully understand it. Presentation, so that the work, we split the slides of the presentation so that the work was shared and properly organized. We decided to apply the technique of mindful eating by keeping a diary for about 4 days. In these diaries, we recorded what we ate all day. We concluded that we were able to manage our diet better and also realized that many of the things that we eat are due to the emotional hunger. These are some of the diaries that we kept. Some of us recorded the breakfast, some others the lunch, and some others the dinners. And of course, whoever wanted could record what they ate the whole day. Our conclusion, what we understood from the technique of mindful eating is that we feel better about ourselves, since in the right way to consume our food, but also when we need it. It helps at the mind and physical health. Finally, the mindful eating technique is effective and helps us a lot in full understanding and recognition. Now it's Alina's turn.
Okay, food labels. The presentation was made by Alina Mitri, Ornella Ciami, Caiopi Yubeka, Burjog Liliana, and Spiros Bozas, and our professor, Ms. Balabeku. How we started. The Erasmus report has been brought to our attention by our professor, Mrs. Balabeku. The Erasmus report was on nutrition, entitled TAO, Tackling Adolescent Obesity Towards Health Body and Mind, a guide for teenagers. A detailed discussion was held during the course. We, as a team, got an interest to make a project about food labels. Presentation organization. Before starting to make our presentation, every one of us made some research so we could fully understand what we would like to go for. After that, we arranged our thoughts by what information we would like to go to include in our presentation and the form of it. Having that in mind, everyone collected the information that was needed and included in the presentation. Lastly, we formed our presentation by using everyone's own ideas and information that they found, as well as some useful tips and tricks. Searches: biology textbook, nutrition facts label on packaged food, nutritional value of chocolate, biscuits, and cereal. TAO, Tackling Adolescent Obesity Towards Healthier Body and Mind, a guide for teenagers. And conclusion. Now, how we conclude, what we learned. A packet of a product tells us where it is made, its components, its preservatives, and its expiration date. We have to check the product's packet because we, as customers, want to know if the product that we eat is healthy for our health. So we always check the ingredients that our food contains. This is important, especially if we have allergies or intolerances. Also, we have to check the nutritional declaration which every product has, because we have to know if the products that we eat are appropriate and healthy for us. Thank you for your attention.
The stages of creating the presentation by Zoya Papadimitriou, Christine Papathanasiou, and Ola Econom. How and why we chose the topic. At first, TAO, Tackling Adolescent Obesity Towards a Healthier Body and Mind, a guide for teenagers, was given to us during the winter break. We had some options, and among them we decided that this was the most interesting one. We also thought we could learn a lot of new things about obesity and bullying in teenagers and more. We consider these events are important, and we wanted to inform others about them. Finally, through this, we would have the opportunity to advise many people. How we separated the sections. At first, we wanted all the units to be equal, to avoid any injustice. Then we had a conversation and we ended up that each one will take the subjects he wanted. We heard all the ideas and decided to start doing our presentation. How we found information. Firstly, we searched on some websites about obesity and bullying. Additionally, we asked our relatives about the theme and we wrote notes. Moreover, we saw videos with some incidents and we took ideas for a project. Last but not least, we decided to take only the most important things from what we had found. How we organized our presentation. At the beginning of the presentation, we added some information about obesity and what to look out for. Then we thought bullying was linked to obesity as a consequence, and then we decided to talk about that. We made a small survey among our classmates to explore their opinion about the topic. So in the end, we discussed how bullying can be treated. The conclusions of our survey were that the majority of our classes never discriminated against someone. If they were faced with discrimination, they would intervene to defend and help the victims. Also, if they were faced with mocking behavior and/or alienation of a friend, they would get involved. Moreover, they believe that those who are discriminated against do not deserve it and they should be helped and understood. To continue the conclusions, the majority of our class believes that the person who makes fun of somebody because of the way they are or because of a disability wants to be the center of attention and has no respect for others. Moreover, they consider that it's important to respect opinions and behaviors other than theirs. In addition, they think that respect for others is important in their life. And at last, they believe that it's not fair to judge someone because of their weight. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much for those presentations. I have to say, I'm really very impressed to see these presentations. They're really, really well put together and really interesting. And I know in that presentation you spoke about, you know, a world without having eating disorders, where we don't have to miss out on things. Absolutely, I hope this program helps move towards that future. And now I would like to welcome Emmanuel Mian to the floor, who is a clinical psychologist who's going to go a bit deeper on the psychological side of nutrition, healthy eating and obesity. So Emmanuel, the floor
Good
is
morning.
yours.
Morning. I hope it is all okay with the sharing of my presentation.
You're now free to share your presentation. Yes.
Okay, let me check. Can you see something? Okay.
Can indeed. Looks good.
Okay. Okay, started.
Perfect.
Maybe. I will talk briefly about two of the most, for me, important issues that are bindingly linked with obesity and also eating disorders. Emotional eating, that is a component of binge eating disorder, that is connected to weight gain in adolescents, and also body dissatisfaction, that is a problem linked to strict dieting, the yo-yo syndrome or recycling, and as a connection with teasing, bullying, and also other problematics with the body image in adolescents. I will address at the end briefly some things that can help coping with issues that are also contained in a clinical protocol that we called mindfulness. But students before me were very precise and helpful to explain mindfulness. They are more experts than me, so I appreciate this so much. But let me introduce myself. I'm Emmanuel Mian, and I'm working in the field of eating disorders, severe obesity, bariatric surgery, as a psychologist, psychotherapist. And I am a researcher since 1999. As you can see, this is my face some days ago during a ceremony. But if I was, maybe you cannot see the presentation, isn't it? You cannot see?
Yeah, we can see the first page still. Maybe you need to click
see
through.
My face. So that's I had to do something like that. So here is my face at the left side, and on the right side is a video simulation where I gained virtually 20 kilos. What could it be your idea of me as a clinician or as a man? Okay, this is the prejudice towards obese people in front of you, explained in 2 seconds, okay? As we check, let me check, okay. Obesity is a very complex and multifactorial disease that must be known deeply to understand what led to it, because not every story is the same. According to our different story and lives, we have different environments. We have different coping strategies, also different approaches to our bodies, and the relation with it, and also the regulation with it. We get deeply into this during this session, but school is, together with families, the first environment when we interact, and I can say we interact with the peers and adults, and we communicate, we share feelings, we share emotions, situation, and we build the image of ourselves. Bodies and faces are the first things that we use to interact. So I introduce obesity stigma. Critics, prejudice, bullying, teasing is often propagated and tolerated in society because of beliefs that stigma and shame will motivate people to lose weight. It's a window to binge eating, to eating disorders, to social isolation, to a decreased physical activity. So, moreover, if you need an everyday image that could explain what obesity stigma is, you can see it in this experiment that a young obese woman did, doing some secret photo shooting, as we said, on the streets or on the beach, involving people that weren't aware of the shooting session. You can see by their facial expressions or their eyes what emotion they feel towards that girl: guiltiness, and disgust and an ignorant, disrespectful laughing. But prejudice, stigma, and bias towards individuals suffering of disease is not only in everyday people. It would seem unimaginable that such insensitive behavior is still existent in 2021. But for people living with obesity and those seeking medical or surgical treatment to fight it, there is a discrimination, and it's still pervasive and much too common. For example, MDs can always say that you must eat less, that you stop whenever you feel full, or at worst, after all is said and done, won't cure, they blame it on the patient, saying that she or he is not motivated. So let's get to emotional eating. What is emotional eating? People learn emotional eating patterns. A child who is given candies after a big achievement may grow up using candies as a reward for a job well done. A kid who is given cookies as a way to stop crying may learn to link cookies with comfort. It's not easy to unlearn this kind of patterns of emotional eating, but it is possible, and it starts with an awareness of what's going on. For example, one of the biggest myths about emotional eating is that it's prompted by negative feelings. Yes, people often turn to food when they are stressed out, lonely, sad, or in anger or bored. But emotional eating can be linked to positive feelings too, like a dessert on your birthday or Valentine's Day or the celebration of an holiday. Sometimes emotional eating is tied to major life events like a death or divorce, or more often it's the country's little day stresses that cause some of us to seek comfort or distraction in foods. And we say that there are some comfort foods. We all have our comfort foods. So they may vary according to moods and gender. For example, one study found that happy people seem to want to eat things like pizza, while sad people prefer ice cream and cookies. For example, bored people crave salty, crunchy things like chips. Researchers also found that guys are different from girls. For example, guys prefer hot, homemade comfort meals like sticks or pasta, or girls go for chocolate or ice cream. And for example, the question was, why does no one take comfort in carrots and cabbage? And the boys, the kids said before, high fat foods, ice cream, may activate chemicals in the body that create a sense of contentment and fulfillment. So this almost addictive quality may actually make you reach these foods when you feel upset, for example. The other difference that you may notice also is physical hunger versus emotional hunger. When you reach for a snack next time, check and see which type of hunger is driving your behavior. For example, physical hunger comes gradually and can be postponed or can be satisfied with any number of foods, and doesn't cause feelings of guilt, physical hunger. Otherwise, emotional hunger, you feel like is urgent to eat, like you have cravings, desire for foods, and you tend to eat more than you normally would, and this can cause guiltiness. So you have a cycle that you can see. I will give you a fast action to be taken to address and to cope, as we can say in mindfulness, for tackling a very important problem in obesity, as it is emotional eating, as you can see in this cycle in the image. For example, the first step is to gain an insight over your triggers. Get down to the root that cause you stress, stuffed emotion, boredom, or sadness, or childhood habits, or social influences. We tend to eat more when we are together with other people. It is important to develop awareness to identify the triggers involved in emotional eating. Using a food diary to list also your emotional state of mind in the moment and the consequences. Once you have identified the triggers, it's important to identify the emotion, the second part. establishing a vocabulary for your emotions. It can be feeling of sadness, anxiety, or anger, and you can be an observer self. Instead of saying I'm sad, you can become your audience, and you can say I am feeling sad. It's different. The way you manage this kind of emotion, and move your temptation and add healthy replacements. If there is no junk food in the house, you can't engage in unhealthy eating. So keep unprocessed, low calorie, low fat foods like fruits, vegetables around for munching, and starting to maintain a food diary, a food journal that can help you understand when and what you eat. So at the end, eating mindfully can help focus mind on the hunger cues, savor the food, slow down the meal, eat without distractions, so and curb overeating. So at the end, you can slow down and savor your food. That is an important aspect that already the students said before on mindful eating. The opposite of mindless is mindless emotional eating, for example. By eating mindfully, you start appreciating every bite of your food. At the end, practice self-compassion. Research shows that practicing self-compassion is the ability to face negative emotions and experience curiosity and self-care. So at the end, in our research field, we know that self-esteem is linked to how we perceive ourselves, how others perceive our bodies. And so body image is the way we feel, we see, we think at our bodies, the mental image of ourselves. And during the years, with three-dimensional video simulation and also other softwares we understood that there is a specific part of our brains linked with how we think the other think my body is. And maybe this part is activated in me in this moment, maybe. And so a lot of research must be done in this field to understand also how teasing, obesity stigma, emotional eating are linked together to eating disorders, and of course, obesity in adolescents. We also use every means, such as also mirrors. Let me check. Or video simulation, web and smartphones apps to do so, because at the end, hardly 80% of the adolescent girls say they went on a diet, and 95% of people suffering from eating disorders are between 12 and 24 years old. So we can see here, but students have already said something about it. Beauty models that are social proposed and always imposed changed why that's why maybe I can say to you briefly why female are prone to eating disorders. Males are prone to muscles. They want to build muscles. Otherwise, the girls want to be thinner, no muscles. So you can check, for example, superheroes during the past 40 years. You can see Batman as it was in 1915 and Batman now with more muscles and more six-pack. How you can say? I have no six-pack at all. Sorry. And the same actor, after 10 years, the same actor must be more muscular. So the idea, even in male, is changed. You can see Superman, the same. You can see Superman in the black and white, and you can see the always on six-pack. So at the end, you can see that also in male, there is a shift towards a more muscular. At the end, I want to show you one girl that even if she fought obesity and get to normal weight, teasing, bullying, and low self-esteem related to obesity stigma make perceive her body, as you can see in this simulation. This is the way she perceives her body, even if she's lost hardly 20 kilos. So at the end, I would like to thank you for the attention. I would like to dedicate this presentation to the president of Amici Obesi, Marina Biglia, and thanks for the attention.
Thank you very much, Manuel, for that really interesting
Sorry, there were some
presentation.
animations, but they are not okay.
Oh, it's okay. We still saw the presentation, and it was really interesting. Thank you. So we'll now move to a short Q&A session, and I'm going to kick us off with a question from one of the students participating in this program, and they would like to know what you would recommend to a teenager that has an eating disorder but is maybe too afraid to speak about it. What kind of advice would you give to a teenager in this circumstance?
We didn't have so much time at the end of my presentation to say that eating disorders arise from a lack of communication. So whenever there is no communication, not the communication of the disorder, but of your feelings, of the way you feel the words of the others, but also the eyes of the others, because you feel yourself overwhelmed by critics that are the critics that you have for yourself, the inner voice that say to yourself that you are not enough, and you think that the others are saying or thinking the same, even you have not asked to say something about it. So there is the first lack of communication about the feelings of people that is living inside an eating disorder. There is a lot of misinformation, even in Italy, about eating disorders. And we know that school and families are, as I said at the beginning, the first environment where you can tackle, address, but listen. The first thing is to permit, to give permission to every girl and boy to let them express themselves and what they have inside. Because you have not to say, I have an eating disorder, but I eat emotionally. I feel stressed when somebody is looking at my body, or maybe I cannot express what I have inside. So my advice is to start talking with your peers, but with your peers that you feel, I cannot say similar to you, but sensible in the same way. The other thing is, but is not an advice to girls and boys, but to the adults, is to let the adults, families, know what is an eating disorder and what is not. Because sometimes they say, okay, you have to eat less, or you have to move and practice physical activity. Is too simple. And eating disorders have only the symptom in eating less, eating too much, weight gain, lose weight. You have feelings. And when you can talk about feelings, you can express yourself. Otherwise, we are talking about a body. It's too big, it's too thin, and it's too simple. And the risk is not to get deeper to what was the strategy for. For example, the last thing, an eating disorder was a strategy to avoid or to cope with a difficulty in life. The problem is that at the end, this strategy become a cage, and that's the problem. You have to go to what was the problem and to change the strategy. So at the end, shortly, talk, communicate, and you don't have to feel ashamed to talk about something like this, because 80% of girls that start a diet, they start because they think they are not enough. So there are 8 on 10 girls that are feeling the same thing that you are feeling. so they can understand you. But they are also ashamed not to talk to you about this. So express the emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really great advice. Thank you. And I just have one last question for you. So obviously we've heard so much about this farm to fork strategy, beating cancer plan, all these movements happening at the moment in the EU. Do you think, I mean, we've heard the importance of mental and emotional health. Do you think there is enough focus on mental health, on this, in the discussion today with these new kind of strategies, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think that there is so much respect for the mental health that are linked and bind together with the physical health. So they are not distinct. They are bind together. It's like the mind of the Savior. The mind of the Savior is complex but simple at the same time. It's not so also experienced, but is the union between the rational mind and the emotional mind. Together, they create the mind of the Savior. Okay, that's the same with mental health, physical health, food education. That starts also with the things that we can say that are simple. The labels, the food labels. How much we know about what we are eating. So at the end, I think that obesity is multifactorial, so we have to tackle in a multifactorial way. Simple. So starting with respect. I saw a lot of respect. When I listened to the Greek school, and I listened to their accent that is very, very, very tender to me. I cannot say the right word, is very kind for me. And I hear the Italian boys and girls. They were all prepared. They were all respectful, and they were all deeply involved in this kind of field, and it surprised me. And so I'm very I have hope in the future thanks to today. So I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, I think we all agree with you in that they were very, very impressive presentations. Thank you very much, Emmanuel. I'm now going to move to our final panelist of today. I'd like to welcome Avril Flynn to the floor for her presentation. So Avril, she works with SONVE, which is a scientific society dedicated to exploring plant-based nutrition. So Avril, you are welcome to share your presentation, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, let me start by saying it really is a pleasure to be here with you all. Today I will be standing in for the president of SONVE, Sabina Bietolini, to speak to you about how to eat healthy meals for a healthy life. Through time, the things that we eat have changed. We are living an ever more sedentary lifestyle, and we are often eating the wrong foods and more fast foods. Energy homeostasis. What is the best way to reach it? By eating junk food and exercising like crazy, or by eating well and keeping yourself fit? So, do you know how far you would need to run to get rid of some of these foods? For example, French fries, 5.9 kilometers. A candy bar, 3.3 kilometers. So how can you build a balanced and healthy diet? Well, not like this picture, of course, but it actually is very easy. Let's look at some simple tips together. We can read from The Lancet, which is one of the most respected international scientific medical journals, that in a study published in 2019, eating healthily actually saves lives. Let's look at the kinds of foods we need to eat more of. There are 4 groups: fruits, whole grains, nuts and seeds, and vegetables. Take fruit, for example. We should be eating 200 to 300 grams per day. but on average, we're eating less than 100 grams. In 2018, another important international report focused on the importance of having a healthy weight, being physically active, eating a diet rich in whole grains, vegetables, fruit, and beans. It speaks of the importance of limiting the consumption of fast food and other processed foods that are high in fat, starches, or sugars, and also red and processed meats, sugary drinks, and alcohol. So on the basis of these indications, how can we make our meals healthier? By eating more protein, especially plant-based protein, by choosing healthy fats and whole grain carbohydrates. We should eat more fiber by choosing fruit and whole grains. We can increase the minerals, vitamins, and antioxidants in our diet by eating preferably raw fruit and vegetables. So how can we describe healthy food? Fresh, raw as much as possible, and homemade with simple ingredients, not only because it's healthy, but cooking is also fun. And colorful, in order to receive the benefits from the different colors. We will have a look at that next. So my nutritionist said that the more colorful the dish, the healthier it is. But what colors and foods are we talking about? Here is a nutritional rainbow that helps us to understand the connection between the color of a food and its health benefits. For example, vitamin C, which is an antioxidant, anthocyanins, which destroy free radicals. Colors are very important in our diet. Here we can see how vitamin C is affected when it is boiled or canned. By eating raw fruit and vegetables as much as possible, we can increase our consumption of vitamin C. Choose your food using organic ingredients that are in season. This will reduce the chemicals and increase the nutritional content in our meals. And it's also kinder to our planet. Going back to talk about free radicals for a moment, how can we defend ourselves? By eating foods that are rich in antioxidants and other nutrients like colorful fruit and vegetables. In particular, we are talking about bioactive components like vitamins, minerals, and phytochemicals, which have a protective, antioxidant, and anti-inflammatory effect. They contribute to keeping our body healthy. Let's not forget that 2021 is the International Year of Fruit and Vegetables. So as soon as the conference ends, you know what to do. Go and get your 5 to 8 portions of fruit and vegetables. Here we can see the Mediterranean food pyramid, which shows at its base the essential foods, which are fruit, vegetables, and whole grain cereals. As we go up the pyramid, we can find meat and dairy, which should be consumed in much smaller quantities compared to fruit and vegetables. On the other side, we can see an inverted pyramid, which shows us the environmental impact that our foods have on our planet. At the top, we can see the animal products, which have the highest impact on our environment, whereas we can see at the base that fruit and vegetables have a lower environmental impact. Therefore, a diet rich in fruit and vegetables is also better for our planet. These are some of the foods that should be eaten in very small quantities and definitely not every day. For example, cakes, sugary drinks, red meat, and processed meats. So what is junk food? It is important to know which foods we should only be eating as an exception to our normal healthy diet. Any industrial food made with refined cereals, white sugar, hydrogenated and animal fats, additives, preservatives, dyes, etc., such as hamburgers, French fries, industrial snacks. So are we really sure that junk food is bad for us? Well, here we can see the nutritional information which can help us to understand what we are eating. In the hamburger, we can see the high level of fat and cholesterol as well as sodium, which equals the quantity of cholesterol recommended for an entire day in just one hamburger. The burrito has a slightly lower fat content, but still very high. These foods are truly toxic to our organism. The saturated fats contained in a lot of junk food appear to encourage the formation of amyloid plaques in the brain, which may lead to neurological disorders. This shows us yet again how important our diet is for so many aspects of our health. A further risk of the consumption of junk food is linked to increasing levels of severe obesity. For these reasons, it is important to limit the consumption of these foods as much as possible. Why should I make my meals following recent international recommendations? Because those recommendations are intended to offer through food maximum disease prevention to keep us healthy, strong, active, and fit. Is it difficult to make our meals following recent international recommendations? Not at all. Simply focus on colors, freshness, homemade, and mainly choose foods from the 4 groups which we need to eat more of. Preparation of meals has to be easy, quick, and mouth-watering. Here are the examples of some meals. So fresh colored steamed vegetables and a bean hummus or any yogurt, preferably organic. Mixed sprouts, fresh basil, and a source of healthy protein which you like. Whole flour pizza with fresh creamy cheese, also from nuts. Fresh tomatoes and rocket salad, walnuts, sprouts, and black olives. Fresh colored vegetables, avocado, mixed salads, and chickpeas with some mayo. A snack of melon, pine nuts, and fresh mint. Or a breakfast cake made with whole flours, cocoa, olive oil, agave syrup, almond drink, and almonds. By eating a healthy diet, we can maintain a healthy weight for our body and improve our immune system. Healthy diet, healthy weight, and a healthy body. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much for that, Avril. As we approach lunch, I can feel my stomach grumbling as I'm looking at all this delicious food that you've had on your presentation. Let's just move quickly to the Q&A session. So I do have one question here from the audience for you, which is from a parent who has a child who struggles with her weight, and they're working to kind of implement some more positive changes there, but she's finding that lockdown is not really helping physically or psychologically, and there's some struggle in these changes. And her question is how you would advise that you can help her, help the child to make healthier choices without creating too much of an issue surrounding food, because you know there's quite a fine line there. I wonder what you would say to that.
Natasha, unfortunately, I won't be able to answer any questions as I am just standing in for Sabina today.
No problem. Okay, I wasn't aware of that. Well, that's not a problem, but thank you very much for the presentation, and it was very informative as well. Yes. In which case, without questions and without further ado, that will bring us to the close of this event. And I'd like to thank all of our speakers, all of our participants for this interesting discussion, for bringing their perspectives to this issue. But I will now pass the floor to Floriana for some closing remarks before we're all off for lunch for some nice healthy grub. All right, thank you very much, everyone. Over to you, Floriana.
Yeah, thank you, Natasha. Well, I would like to conclude saying just two, three things to this very interesting conference. I was very impressed. I must say, I was very impressed by the presentation of all the students, how much they follow the program, how much they prepare those presentations. It was very, very nice for us to work so hard on this program to see how they are following it, they believe in it. That was great. So what I would like to add is just a severe obese, as I said at the beginning, obesity in general, but severe obesity above all, is really not a simple problem. As we have seen with Emmanuel and with other speakers, it creates sufferance, loneliness, humiliation, the stigma of obesity, and bullying. We really hope with this program to help and to support teenagers. And I was very, very impressed. Last year on a conference, I met a Polish lady. She tried to bring obesity as a big issue, a big problem. She was explaining to me, you don't know, Floriana, how much can be difficult and really complicated to go on a bus just simple as going on a bus, just going 2 steps to get in the bus before the bus goes away, how much it's heavy for me, and I'm scared I cannot do as fast as possible to get in the bus, and people can laugh because I can fall. Or again, she was telling me when she goes to her doctor in Poland, because sometimes doctors do not have that kind of sensibility to understand sensitivity, how difficult it is for them, that the chair of the doctor had arms and she couldn't sit. There was no space enough, but she was waiting a lot of time for the doctor to call her. So at the end, she had to buy a chair to sit in the waiting room of the doctor to have space enough for her to sit. Just an example how much can be tough for somebody with severe obesity. And then I would like just to conclude saying Marina Biglia was the president of Amici Obesi, which is one of the organizations I started 3 years ago to create this project. Unfortunately, she passed away, so she's not with us today, but she was really fighting against severe obesity for herself and for people who suffer. President of this of the Amici Obesi, and her sentence was, at the core of eating disorders is silence, and this silence must be broken, starting with us. So I would like to finish dedicating this conference to her. Thanks everybody, thanking Natasha to be with us, all the teachers, all our speakers, excellent speakers. I think it's been very interesting to listen to students. Has been a great experience for us, and thank you really to all participants, all people at SAFE who support us with this conference. Thank you to all of you, and I wish you a nice day.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, everyone. Have an excellent day.